Welcome back to Arsenal News TV, and today we're going to look at the Arsenal player ratings versus Villarreal, and we're going to look at how the Gunners got on individually in the Europa League semi-final second leg against Villarreal at the Emirates Stadium. So the first person on the list is Bert Leno, and he made some smart saves when called upon, but not really too much to do on the night. He was decent playing out from the back when required, but I thought he was shaky at one moment where he pretty much missed the ball, and he pretty much didn't have much to do because Villarreal had a very smart plan, and for his performance he deserves a 5. Next up we got Hector Bellerin, and he was deservedly given the nod after a strong display against Newcastle United, but he did a little well to reward his manager's faith. He gave the ball away frequently, and he was awful in the final third. And I think you can count the number of times Hector Bellerin missed it. I think it's over 20 or 30 passes. And I thought it was a horrendous performance once again from Hector Bellerin. And for his performance, he deserves a 4. Next up, we got Rob Holding. And he was vocal as ever and went close with a couple of headed chances. But also did miss the passing range of David Luiz to break down Villarreal's narrow defence. And even though Rob Holding had 2 headers where he could have scored it into the back of the nets, they were difficult chances. His second chance, he could have put it back into the nets. But for his performance today, I think it's fair to say he deserves a 5. Next up, we got Pablo Mari, and he was exposed on occasion as Arsenal looked to commit men forward, but dealt with that well, particularly after Chukwueze went off. He was better than in the first leg, but still not one of his best displays for the Gunners. And he was probably grateful for the fact that Chukwueze was went off, but Arsenal still lost the game. And for his performance, he deserves a 5. Next up, we got Kieran Tierney, and he clearly wasn't fit to start the game, and only had to because of Granit Xhaka's late injury. He couldn't combine well with Pepe down the left flank, and lacked his usual assertiveness when going forward. And you can clearly see that Kieran Tierney was not 100% at all. I don't know why he was put into the squad if he's not 100%. I don't know why you have to play bukayo, Saka in the left back in the last 5 minutes. I don't understand what's wrong with Arteta, but for his performance, he deserves a 4. Next up, we got Thomas Partey, and he was asked to do a lot as basically a one-man midfield, while the rest were instructed to get forward. He didn't cope well though, and he gave the ball away on several occasions when playing out. And I can't blame him because he had to deal with 2 midfielders by himself, and he was poor, and for his performance he deserves a 4. Next up we got Emil Smith-Rowe, and he was everywhere around the pitch and had arguably the best chance of the night when he scooped at his effort at the start of the second half, curled just wide, a low bar, but the Croydon De Bruyne was probably the man of the match, and it looked like Croydon De Bruyne was a name that Emil Smith-Rowe was given, deservedly so, but he was given the opportunity to score that opportunity, and I thought he was probably the best player on the pitch. So for his performance today, I think it's fair to say he deserves a 6. Next up we got Bukayo Saka, and it was on some occasions where he was able to get in behind the Villarreal defence, but not really enough on the night to cause too many problems, and there was not enough balls over the top towards Bukayo Saka to really create anything. There was that one chance where he tried to cross it with his right foot, but it went over the pitch. So for his performance, he deserves a 5. Next up, we got Martin Odegaard. He struggled to get onto the ball as Arsenal struggled to link the play between defence and attack yet again this season. Again, couldn't really influence the game as we know he's capable of. And I think he's really good at that number 10 role, and he wasn't given the opportunity by Mikel Arteta. But he did look a bit shaky. The passes, that silkiness of his play was not there. I don't know if it's all down to Mikel Arteta. The tactics may have ruined these guys' momentum. And for his performance, he deserves a 5. Next up, we got Nicolas Pepe. And he showed intent throughout and looked determined to break through the Villarreal defence. It was saved for one shot at the beginning of the second half, though he couldn't really directly threaten. And he was moved to the left, he was moved to the right flank. He didn't get the opportunity to stay on one flank. Mikel Arteta was moving him around there. And for his performance, he deserves a 5. Next up, we move on to our talisman, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And he hardly touched the ball, but had by far Arsenal's best chances when he hit the post twice. Not his fault, as the amount of times the ball got forward to him was minimal. And he was an elite level striker, even though he's probably 90 to 80% fit. He didn't look his usual 12th, but he did do what he can. And for his performance, I think it's fair to say he deserves a 5 for his performance. Next up, we got the substitutes, and we're going straight into Gabriel Martinelli. He was direct and energetic as always, but he could do little in terms of goal mouth action when isolated out on the left. And it was another huge mistake made by Mikel to not play him in that left winger role. He looked decent, but he didn't look the decentness he did have at the start. But for his performance, he deserves a 5. Next up, we got Alexander Lacazette. He provided something of a physical threat for Albiol and Torres to deal with, but it was introduced too late to do anything. And he was there from the 70th minute, but Mikel didn't play him on. So another mistake by Mikel. So for his performance, he deserves a 5. Next up, we got Willian. He was brought on at a time when Arsenal desperately needed a goal. Despite having not scored one himself all season, it was very little more needs to be said. And I don't know what Mikel is doing here. I seriously do not understand the manager anymore. And there's only one thing I can tell you, and it's Arteta out. And for his performance, he deserves a 5. And finally, we got Eddie Nketiah. He came on too late to influence the game, but when he did come on the pitch, he made 2 silly tackles, and that cost us the game pretty much as well. So overall, it was a poor performance. I don't blame the players at all, because they did look like they would have played better in the first minutes if Mikel told them to be more progressive and not be passive from the first minutes. But they were passive. They were passive from the first minutes until the 45th minute, and Mikel probably said, okay, let's go all out attack now, and that's what the players did. They listened to the manager makes the calls, and Mikel was embarrassing once again. For me, yes, trust the process, trust that process, but I think he can do much better with these players. I think he has a much better squad than the Villarreal squad, in my opinion. He didn't get the best out of these players. He's getting wrong with the tactics. We need a huge manager in the squad, in my opinion. Kroenke done us all dirty thinking that this guy was going to be the next big thing. He's not going to be the next big thing. And I'm being serious now. I've gone negative. I can't do anything about it. But other than that, guys, remain blessed. Stay tuned for the next video, and peace.